Hello again guys, back with another video. This time we're going to be doing a more thorough understanding of how to unlock the GPD Pocket 2's full potential. This time we're going to be doing the things on the software side that need to be done. Things that I want to explore in this video are things such as the Microsoft Power Plan, how to set it up optimally to help you get some performance. Even if that's the only thing you want to do, it's still something that you should definitely do. You get a lot more performance or power savings out of it. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go in ThrottleStop, and we're going to do two things with ThrottleStop. Number one, we're going to learn how to set up profiles in Undervolted, and the other thing that a lot of people asked for is we're going to unlock the TDP of the GPD Pocket. That's a bit of a complicated procedure at first, but once it's set up, it's fairly useful because if you do thermal mods, you can get a lot more power out of the computer like this. So those are the things we're going to be doing. If you're not interested in any of the other stuff, I'm going to leave some timestamps in the video so you can just fast forward ahead if that's what you're interested. And also one more thing that I'm going to do, as I have learned to do, is there is a Japanese key in the Pocket 2, this key here. I'm going to teach you how to remap that one because I remapped it. So now what that allows me to do when I'm using ThrottleStop, as you can see, I can go, let me show you, I can press it. If you pay attention to the profiles, I can press it and alternate between them. How do I do that? Very simple. I mapped it to right alt, and I can just switch between the profiles respectively by holding it. It's very useful because this also applies within games if you want to change between modes. Say if you want to go into ultra power saving, you switch to the profile 1 that I did here, which underclocks the computer to 1 gigahertz only. And also I switched the Microsoft Power Plan to locked, and the GPU itself will be very conservative and you have a very low frequency. As you can see here, my package power is at around less than 2 watts. Sometimes it drops really low, and you can see my millivolts are very efficient. Now if I go ahead and I change the power plan to something like the unlocked GPU, it's going to spike up. And also if I change it to plan number 4, which is the 2.4 gigahertz dual core sustained, all of a sudden it jumps into high numbers, and the package also rises. This is useful because if you want to switch between the mode of, say you want to save a lot of battery or you want to use a lot of power, you can do it in a matter of 5 seconds. Everything's set to go. So with that being said, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do here is set the Microsoft Power Plan. It seems a little mundane at first, but something that you have to learn about it is that it's also in control of your GPU. If the power plan is set to something like low power, it's gonna hamper your performance when you play a game. I can unlock everything on my computer with ThrottleStop, unlock the TDP, and it'll still tap out at say 5 watts or so, which is very unfortunate, since if that happens, you're gonna think that your computer's underperforming. It is not. It's just the power plan playing with it. So how you're gonna go about it is you're gonna right click on the battery icon and you go into power options. It's gonna pull you to this window here. Here you're gonna say create a power plan. Create a power plan. I made 2 plans and I named them unlock GPU and log GPU. Why did I do that? If you go into the power plan, you'll see change advanced power settings. You can play with a lot of things. One of them is Intel graphics settings. Here, Intel graphics power plan maximum performance is set for the unlocked one. It has three profiles: maximum battery life, balance, and maximum performance. Why is this important? Simple, because that's your GPU governor. This is a bit of a shortcut in itself. I already made a shortcut for the menu here. It's custom made, but if you go into the Intel graphics, here, graphics control panel, you will see that there's an Intel software built into the computer where you can control things such as the aspect ratio and other settings, scaling, etc. Also play with your monitor settings. But a little thing here in power, you will find it's in balance mode. Why is it in balance mode? Because I'm imbalanced here. If you switch it to unlock GPU, all of a sudden maximum performance. If I switch it to locked, maximum battery life. So instead of having to go all the way here, you can just simply use the power plan and alternate between them. All I need to do now is this. That's it. This in itself, I'm using a widget. I will show you how to install that one, but it's very useful. Even if you only do this and switch the profiles, very useful to change the GPU governor. It's very important towards unlocking the TDP, so this is something that needs to be done. So definitely do that. The way I got this little widget here, it's through the Microsoft Store. So you're gonna open it, Power Plan Configurator, or Switcher, Power Plan Switcher. So you're gonna just download this, and it's a pretty straightforward process. Just download it and installs, and it's gonna give you this thing here. Just put it on your taskbar. If it's somewhere in here, just slide it across, and you'll be set. It's gonna appear here. Whatever power plans you have, it's the ones that it's gonna show. So as you can see, I have balanced, unlocked, and locked. It's just gonna show those here. If you have any more, it should show them too. But I would stick to just 3. If you want to make more, feel free to do so. But it's just gonna congest it a little bit, so I would advise against it. Another thing that you can also do here is go and change other stuff, such as the video playback, and so battery saving. If you wanted to shut down a certain percentage, you should already know this by now, but just in case you don't, it's always good to know this. Example, let's see, multimedia settings. When video playback, you can have a bit of performance bias or power saving. This also changes, so if you want to have the best video experience, it's recommended that you put it on the best setting here. You can also adjust those for the plans, and you have other stuff such as the power processor management. You can set your fan here. If you want to keep it on at all times, you can keep it in passive or active. Active turns on the fan a lot more often, but it makes more noise. Passive will keep it quieter, but it will also increase your temperatures because the fan's not being as aggressive with the power curve. So at a lower temperature, it will not turn on aggressively, whereas this one will turn on as fast as it can. So that's something that you can also keep in mind. Yes, you can kill it with the button here, but at the same time, what if you want an in-between solution, not too noisy, but you still want the fan on? So this is advisable. Other settings that you can play here are the maximum processor state. Definitely I'd keep those at 100 and for the maximum, and 1% for the minimum, just because you're gonna have ThrottleStop control those frequencies. Don't hamper it. Just keep those at 1 and 100% respectively. The next thing we're gonna do is install ThrottleStop. Now, if you want to unlock the TDP, you have to follow a different procedure. But generally speaking, you just go and download ThrottleStop from the main website. If you want to unlock the TDP, this version will be incompatible. It's the newer version, but it's incompatible for the TDP because you're gonna need a modded version. You just go and download it here. This is the newest version of ThrottleStop. It's a legitimate source. I have downloaded one from here, so don't be scared of it. I will link it in the description. But if you want to download the one that will let you play with the TDP, you need to download a modded one. Now that one specifically, I downloaded it from Hotel Hero's YouTube video. He was the one that modded the file. It's reputable. I'm running it at the moment. I will link that one in the description, but that's the one you're gonna need to download instead. The procedure is identical. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna just download it, install it in whatever folder you want after you uncompress it, and you're gonna go into the fully integrated voltage regulator, FIVR for short. And here's gonna be a little thing saying install. You're gonna press it, and it's gonna take you to another window, and it's gonna download a new file, something about the name of RWDVR. You're gonna download it, and you're gonna extract it to the folder of ThrottleStop. So I'm gonna show you really quick here. So as you can see, this is my ThrottleStop file. Here it's in my documents. I have a ThrottleStop 8704. It's not the latest version. The latest version is not compatible with this mod. So when you download the RWDRV file, you're gonna just put it on the file with ThrottleStop, and that's about it. Just drop it, and when you go back to ThrottleStop, it's gonna be here. This window, it's not gonna display it anymore if you successfully install it, and then you're gonna tick this box, and all of a sudden your settings are gonna be applied, and you're gonna be able to play with the TDP as freely as you want. It's very simple, but that's what you have to do. When you go into the TPL window, here are your limits. As you already know from previous videos, I've set it to 8 and 9 respectively. So this is your your long power boost. So this is what the computer will be running at consistently. So that means that if you don't touch it, it's gonna spike up to 8 watts maximum. This is the short power boost, which is kind of like the turbo one, if you may. If you start using something, you open an app really quick, it may spike up to 9 watts for 28 seconds. Here you can set the timer respectively. I set mine to 28 seconds because for most conditions 9 watts is not only unnecessary, it burns a lot of battery and it heats up a lot. If the room temperature is not pleasant, then this will easily cause my computer to melt down or spike above 80. I don't like that, so you can set it as freely as you want. I know the M3 7Y30 processor will let you go around to 15 watts. It should be pretty identical to the new 8th Gen M3 processor, which is for the newer pockets. The procedure is the same for both of them, so just follow it. I'm not really sure what clamp does, but just check it anyway. So just make sure these are checked, and that's it. All the other options here, don't worry about them. One that you may be interested in is a SpeedShift, but I will get to that later. I have it enabled. So just press apply, and that's it. Now, in order for the TDP to be in effect, ThrottleStop must start from scratch. So right now, for example, my computer was in sleep mode. As you can see, if I try and bench it, it's just gonna go 8.5 watts, and then it's gonna go to 4.5 watts default. As you can see, this is incorrect considering that I already set it much higher. What you're gonna have to do every time the computer goes to sleep, and it's unfortunate, but it's just the procedure you're gonna have to follow. As you can see, no more than 4.1. Just go, kill ThrottleStop, restart it again. Again, after sleep, you're gonna have to do this every time. And once it starts for the first time, it's gonna let you unlock it completely. This gets undone every time you go to sleep, so you're gonna have to keep doing it. Look at the wattage. All of a sudden it's spiking a lot more. Now, because of the power plan, as I mentioned, it's not gonna go to maximum. Now I'm gonna go unlock it and press this. Now I have the complete profile. Look at the wattage. The reason this isn't taking an 8.5 like it should out of the box is because I undervolted. That reduces the power that the CPU receives and still asks that it performs the same. So you use less and do the same amount. That's something I'm going to get to later in the video. This is undervolting. This is why you should do it. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to remap the Japanese key as I previously mentioned. So we're going to go to the GPD website. Once again, I will leave all of this linked in the description, so don't worry about having to find it on the web. I'm going to write exactly what it is and I'm going to put the link. So you're going to go to the GPD website where you can download all the firmware for the GPD Pocket 2. And you're going to find the keyboard firmware. The reason you want to do this is because if you try to remap it, you may have noticed that this key here shares the same key code as this. So if you try to use any software to remap it, these two share the same code, so they're identical. So GPD released a firmware solution that allows you to have different scan codes for both of them. There's one for Japan and one for English. The one that you're going to download is actually the Japanese one, regardless of whether or not you're Japanese or not. The reason is this one works, this one doesn't. I have tried them both. The English one does nothing, whereas the Japanese one actually works. Don't worry about the keyboard, it will not make any of your Japanese keys or anything change. All it does is gives you the different scan codes. The English one did not work when I tried it, so that's why you want to download the Japanese one. So I'm gonna mention something. You need to have an external mouse to do this. For some reason, when you set it up to boot, you boot the software, it will kill the internal keyboard and I think even the mouse. So you're gonna need something to restart it. I have an external Bluetooth mouse here, this one here. So that's why I'm not gonna lose control. I have already done this, but just for the sake of it, I'm gonna show you what it is. You press download for the Japanese one. There we go. You extract it. Yes, I'm gonna buy the software totally. And it's this one here, the Lock Keyboard Update Tool. So when this extracts, this is gonna appear. So if you have an internal keyboard, this is the part where you're gonna start panicking. Notice here it's not doing squat, it's not moving. Keyboard's fried. nothing's happening. So this is why you want to have an external one. So once this happens, just press start. It runs a little software tool. You don't really need to do much other than just watch. Turns green, it means it succeeded. If it turns red, you've encountered a problem. I'm not sure what kind of a problem that would be, but all I know is that there's a problem. So something went wrong, it's bad. Try and solve it, but I mean, I don't really know how to help you there because I haven't really heard of anybody having an issue with it. Once that's done, you're gonna go and restart the computer. Because I just applied it, I'm gonna have to restart it. Yes, we're gonna shut down Steam. I'm gonna have to restart it, and I'm gonna show you how to remap it once this is done, because now it will have a different scan code. For the next part, I'm gonna show you how to map the keys now that the computer is restarted. So you're gonna have to use the software to map this. It's gonna make changes directly to the registry, but it's very simple. You're gonna go and you're gonna download SharpKeys. You go on Google. Once again, I can also leave the download link for this one so you don't have to go through this. But this is the software that you gotta use. Go here, download the zip. There you go, SharpKeys. It's a very light program, and I don't believe it installs even. So all you need to do is extract it. And here you go. So as you can see here, my changes are already mapped because I do have the application already. This is the one I used. So as you can see, I'm going to delete it just to show you. So what you're going to do is press add. Here are the changes of the keys that you can use, and here are the changes you can assign to them on the right. So what you're going to do is you're going to type the Japanese key, press type key, and it's going to ask you press a key. You press the Japanese one, it doesn't register anything. But you press the other one. Now the way I did it is I mapped the keys respectively. Sometimes it acts weird. I don't know how it's going to take to your computer, but you can map this key to do a specific function, and you can map this key to do its own function. Just try and map them as best as you can. I'm having issues trying to demonstrate how I did it because when I undid the changes, I think because I already assigned them, it started freaking out, so I cut that part out of the video already. So yeah, I'm sorry about that one. I guess you're gonna have to figure it out on your own, but at least now they should have different scan codes. Just play around with it and you should be able to sort that out. Now what I was getting at here, I was trying to make it write out. Reason being, that's not on the Pocket keyboard. Now I assigned this to the write out key. So if you go on ThrottleStop, you can now use it if you do that as a shortcut. You go on options, you go, where is it, hotkeys here. You go on hotkeys, and then you can see that here you can make shortcuts for your profiles. There's profile 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the hotkey to activate that is Alt. Now the reason that is so important is because Alt, if you assign this Alt and this one simultaneously, they're gonna scan as the same. So if you ever press this in the game and the Alt command is already scanned, that's gonna be problematic. Whereas if you use write Alt, you can still keep it as a different mapping, so it won't register in a game where regular Alt will work and write Alt will not. Example is Counter-Strike. I was playing it and the first original Alt gave me problems, so I just assigned it to the right one, and here all I have is Alt. You can theoretically just modify it with this one too and just press the numbers, but these are just so much closer. It just makes it so much easier. ThrottleStop has 4 profiles, as you can see here. You can call them whatever you want. I named them respectively here. You can see them. There's conservative, balanced, performance, and unlocked. Now that you have the TDP unlocked and you got to all the other settings, apologies for the video, I'm having a little bit of issues this time because it's a lot darker than the previous times I filmed, so having issues filming. You can have all 4 profiles and you can switch back and forth between them. So the reason you want profiles is because if you go into the FIRMWARE section, you can see here it says turbo ratio limit, so you can set how much gigahertz you want the profiles to go. So for the first one here, you can go and disable turbo, and this will cap it immediately at 1 gigahertz. If you go for the second one in the FIRMWARE, you can see that it's capped at 2.4 gigahertz single core and 1.6 gigahertz dual core. And if you keep going to the other profiles, you will see 2.6 gigahertz single core, 1.8. Then you can just modify the ratios depending on whatever you want. This is good for saving battery or just saving on CPU power if you don't need as much. And here my unlocked profile has 2.6 gigahertz on single and dual core, which is really good when I'm trying to run a game. Now all I need to do, if I want to switch profiles, instead of having to go here and press this and then press a profile, I can be in the middle of a game. All I need to do is press the Japanese key, profile 1, profile 2, profile 3, profile 4. They all change, as you can see. So this is very useful for switching performance on the go. And here you can set SpeedShift. This controls your CPU governor. 255 is really conservative, so it's going to try and keep the frequencies as low as possible. This one has 128, which is right in between. This one has 128 too, and this one has 0, which means that the frequencies are going to be locked in as high as possible, or as high as the CPU can take with the electricity given. And the last procedure that I want to show is undervolting. If you go into the FIVR, you have FIVR control here. This is a very delicate procedure, so I only recommend doing this carefully. You want to set this to save voltages after ThrottleStop exits. And what you're going to do, you're going to give it maximum core allowance so you can just run it. And you're going to set unlock adjustable voltage. Then you're going to go into whatever you want to undervolt. I already have undervolted all of them, but it is recommended that you only undervolt CPU cache, the core, and the Intel GPU. I have undervolted the other ones and it worked for me, but this is because I have thermal pads. It seems to have added some sort of a stability given, so these are all very stable now. It works so far. If you don't have that, I used to be able to do negative 60 millivolts. Now what undervolting is, you are telling the CPU to not use as much electricity yet still do the same load. Now you're probably thinking, well, the manufacturer set it to run a specific electricity amount. Why would I want to do this? It's simple, because all chips are made differently. Some of them are made with really good materials, really good handling, everything. And some chips are poorly made. So Intel guarantees you that these chips will perform at a certain standard. But these chips are all fundamentally different. So sometimes they need more electricity because the electricity won't be enough to supply them with power, whereas some of them are really good chips, so they can take way less electricity. So if you undervolt, what you can do, for example, is if it would take you 4.5 watts to feed the CPU at 1.6 gigahertz, if you undervolt, you can make it take way less wattage. So instead of taking 4.5 watts for 1.6 gigahertz, there's something like this I have here will give me a boost all the way to 1.85 gigahertz. So let me show you an example here. I'm going to go on TS bench and set it in balanced. So it's a 1.6 gigahertz max. And I want you to look what happens when I use a TS bench. Look at the package power. It's only taking around 4 watts, whereas it should be 4.5 watts for these frequencies, and as you can see, they're currently running under load. This is why you want to undervolt. Now watch what happens when I raise it to 1.8 gigahertz. All of a sudden I can hold it with 4.7, whereas it shouldn't happen like this. This is still too close. 4.3 gigahertz, as you can see when I put it on the conservative profile. Now the GPU is not taking any power. Everything's going to the CPU, 4.4, and I'm at 1.8 gigahertz almost. This is exactly why you want to undervolt, because you can get more out of doing less. So you can undervolt the GPU and the CPU. They both will take less power, less electricity. So if you want to unlock the TDP, this means that you can achieve a higher wattage and also achieve more performance out of that wattage. Or if you want to save power, you can stay at 4.5 watts but still be able to rack it up to 4.5 while having a much higher frequency than the base frequency they give you at first. So overall, there's a massive benefit to doing this. As I said, I'm running currently at negative 80 on the CPU core, and the Intel GPU is running at negative 75, down slice negative 75, system agent negative 80. The way you're gonna undervolt is very simple. You want to start from 0. You're gonna go and you're gonna adjust, unlock adjustable voltage. This is how it should look at first. Unlock adjustable voltage. It starts at 0. You want to set it to something like negative 50. Let's set -50. And also set the the CPU cache at -50, for example. Unlock the adjustable voltage for every time you undervolt. And then you're gonna say, these two should be identical, by the way. You're gonna say save voltage at the ThrottleStop exits, apply. And then you're gonna run benchmarking of any kind. You're gonna run a game, run some benchmarks. The TS bench is pretty useful, Cinebench R15, whatever you can. And then, if it doesn't crash, it's stable. You move on to a lower one. They recommend you move in increments of -5. So you're gonna keep doing this procedure until you find a breaking point where the computer is gonna be like, I can't do this anymore, and it's gonna crash. Either because you're asking too much of the GPU, or you're asking too much of the CPU. They will have different frequencies. I found my breaking point to be -80. After this, I cannot go lower. It starts having issues with the crashes. If you have a really good processor, you can expect to go even deeper, possibly. They call that the silicon lottery because you got a really good chip. Not all chips will be able to go there. They all have different givens, so just keep that into consideration. Just because I can do -80 doesn't mean you should. So experiment and try it. You may see crashes if that happens. Just when you restart the computer, lower the undervolt and restart. I'm also going to mention, if you go to say -80 and then you're running a game and you see it starts flickering and it starts doing weird stuff, and then it's gonna crash and you know it's gonna crash, don't go back here and reset it to say -5 more, because what's gonna happen is the computer, once you go low, you cannot go back with a bigger undervolt. You can't do -80 to -75. If you do that, it's not gonna recognize it until you restart it. If you do, you're gonna think you crashed it on unstable undervolt, whereas you could have been stable, and then you're gonna think it wasn't, so you're gonna lower it even more. Just keep that in mind. I found that through a lot of trial and error. So whatever you find, all of the undervolts will have the same number. Don't try and make different undervolts for different profiles. I did that at first. It's useless. You're gonna just crash your own computer by doing that, because once you go low, you cannot go back up. You have to restart the computer, remember that. So once you find your undervolts, you're gonna have a lot more power to play with at the same wattages as I showed you there. So set your parameters for the profile, set your undervolts, and then you go back, and once you find a stable one, just say save voltages immediately and apply. Just be really careful with this, because you will crash your computer, and if you go way too unstable, we're gonna think that the computer is acting up or something, whereas it's just like you're not giving it enough power. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Another thing I wanted to let you know is that when you use different power plans, for some reason my balanced power plan, and possibly yours, will give you a hard time with undervolts. Do check all your undervolts with all the plans and run them. As you can see, if I run it unlocked, here if I give it the unlocked GPU power plan and I run my wattage, you can see that it pulls 7.7 watts, sometimes even more. And if I change it to locked GPU, for example, it pulls even less. I can't explain why this happens, but it just does. And if I go balanced, it pulls somewhere in between those numbers. This may cause crashes with your undervolt, depending if you get too little electricity on the CPU. Keep that in mind. Trial and error, a lot of testing. It's a pain in the butt, but once you get all this done, it's very worthwhile. The gains are massive. So if you made it this far and you did all the changes, your computer should now be a little pocket monster. If you did the thermal paste, the thermal padding, and if you did all the procedure I showed in this video, which I'm going to apologize if it's a little convoluted. It's just there's a lot of stuff I have to cover, and I didn't really know how to go about it, so I'm going to try and make it as best edited as possible later on. But yeah, that's all you can do to modify the Pocket 2 software. Now you can go and unlock the TDP. The undervolts will cause a little bit of improvements in performance, and then increased TDP can go towards mitigating. Even if you want to run something conservative like 5 watts, you're still going to see a massive bump in performance, because it's still a half a watt better than what the 4.5 watt limit is initially. So if you did everything correctly, your computer should now be able to work like this still. You go here, you change the power plan, unlock GPU, you restart ThrottleStop to unlock the TDP as I mentioned earlier. You can switch to your power plan, whatever you want, if you want a game. And you can just open some game and just blast away. The next video I may do will be of a new external fan mount I got. I'm going to be able to show you guys. I can now run a 12 watts sustained. So I'm going to show the difference that makes in some games, for example. And this video is probably going to be a little bit head wrapping for some people. I apologize for that, but as I said, it's just a lot of topics to cover. And I wanted to do them in a single video, that way you don't have to keep waiting for other videos to come out, since I don't have a lot of time to film lately. So I hope you enjoy it, and if it did help you, please leave a like, comment if you have any questions or if something wasn't clear enough, and we'll be able to answer it to the best of my ability. So thank you for watching, guys.